Hi, Coach. Hello. Hello.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hello. Hey, Kim, just so you know, I sent you an in-house message about our peer coaching.
Okay, that's great.
Okay,
What do you
this
mean by in-house?
one meaning in this platform that it wasn't email or it wasn't like a text
Oh,
or
okay. Yeah, I
anything.
never would have looked there. Okay.
Okay, okay. It's in this
Thanks.
platform.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Yes, indeed. Like to get to bed on coach. That'd be fun. Hmm, where is? Why is that doing that? Oh, I hate my mouse. Can I just say that? All right.
All right, so we are looking for Valerie. One, two, three, four, waiting for Valerie. Holly, Pat, no, Valerie, Holly, George, Lee, and Marcy. Okay.
Actually, you said that, that Karen is no longer in our, in the program.
That's correct.
Okay,
And neither is Patty.
okay, so, and neither is who?
Patty.
Okay, because Karen and I were scheduled to coach last week, and
Yeah, you got to get the new schedules. I updated them on that. They're in the upcoach.
Hi, Cheryl. This is Georgie.
Hi,
I am
Georgie.
driving. I should be home in about 5 minutes, and I'll jump into the computer from then.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
All right. So we're waiting for Marcy and Valerie. For two coaches or two session people. For the first session. Okay. Check my emails really quick. Because you never know.
Hey Cheryl,
Yeah.
where is the new schedule?
Posted in Upcoach. I just
I'm
replaced the screenshots. They're just new screenshots.
Oh, I was just looking there and I don't see it there when it was there before. I'll double check. Weird.
I mean, I can share my
Maybe
screen.
announcements. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh no, that's tentative, it says.
No. Here, let me get it.
Sorry.
That's okay. It says. Oh, let's not be wrong program first. Hang on. Okay, so in class and peer coaching schedule. I'll share my screen.
Well, hold on, I'll go back to you because I was looking in Upcoach.
Yeah, this is Upcoach. I have to share.
Yeah.
So this is the new pairings for the in-class coaching. Oh, well,
Where did you find that? Can you scroll up just a bit, please?
yeah, I'll go
Back
it
to
says-
announcements. Okay.
so it's in the announcements, but the peer coaching's on here, so I'm gonna upload that. But yeah, I went in here and then
Okay, I'll look again right now. I'm obviously looking in the wrong place for whatever reason, like I don't know how to use this program.
I'm gonna add the. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. That's the course schedule. Oh yeah, they're both here.
What the heck?
It's the third one down, I think. Yeah, third announcement down.
Are you right in the course itself?
No, I'm under announcements.
Yeah,
If you're in
okay.
if you're in the program, like you're at the program level, not the course level.
Yeah, I see courses, class recordings, and then it goes to
forum.
forum. There we
Right.
go, announcements,
Right.
course schedule tentative, like,
Yeah, and under that is files seem to be working.
yeah.
And then in
Oh,
class and peer
updated,
coaching.
I'll be fine. Oh my Lord. Oh
It's
my
fine.
Lord.
It's fine. All right. Yeah, so that's where it is.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about that? So the weeks,
Yep.
what the weeks that we don't meet, we're doing 2 coachings, and are we supposed to schedule time with you as well and have a recording to you?
Good question. Let's look at that again. So not that one. We want to look at the, I guess I could have put it in here somewhere, which I did not, but let's look at the course schedule. So if you look at the course schedule, let me look at the course schedule.
I think it's like May 8th, right?
We're trying to get it so you guys could see it big enough, but, oh, there we go. So, yeah, this first one, where it says peer coaching. Well, here's your first one-on-one, the week of April 3rd. So we're going to talk about that, though. We're going to probably push it. That's the first one-on-one. Your second one-on-one is this week of May 22nd. Your third one-on-one is after the course ends. So this
Okay.
is supposed to be next week, but we're not ready for that. So I'm going to push it to, yeah, 17th is fine. I'll push it to April 17th. That's when your first recordings are due to me. And then we'll meet. Well, I mean, it makes sense for us to meet the week of May 8th since we won't have class. So we'll do that. So we'll say recordings by April 17th. And then I'll make an announcement. I'll put this in an announcement and then you'll schedule. I'll put my schedule link in there. You'll schedule your one-on-ones for the week of May 8th.
Okay, Coach, you said recordings. So how many recordings do we need to have to you on the 17th? I
Just
heard
one.
4. Just one? Okay.
One recording with a client. Or you can do, you know, your, you can use your peer coaching for the first 2.
First 2 recordings.
Yeah, you can use that if you'd like. I will say that personally, I don't feel they work very well, but if you have a client, it's better to do that. Oh, here comes Valerie. But, you know, it's up to you guys.
And I still can't download the chapter, so I don't know if you'd heard back from them.
You can't download chapter 3?
Nope. It comes up with a red question mark. So when I go into the course and I get to it, I can see that it's there. And when I put my mouse over it, it lights up. But when I click on it, nothing happens.
So,
Kim says she can't access class 2.
yeah, 1 and 2, for whatever reason, they're telling me that, let me pull up their response to me. Okay, so they said that, so if I edit the lessons, which I did, It says that all you have to do is hit the refresh button. That's what they said. So let's go in and see if that works.
It didn't work. I just did it.
And they gave me
You know what? You don't hit Microsoft. There's a refresh button within the chapter. But let
Did
me
you
see
do that?
now. I did that and it'll let me download it.
Okay. So then that's what they said is that if I change the material, then you have to hit that refresh button. So anytime you see that red line, anybody, just hit the refresh that's in the lesson.
That worked on all of them.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Awesome. Valerie, are you driving? I thought you weren't leaving till 7:30.
I can pull over. My event is at 7:30. I can pull over.
Oh,
But I thought you were going to replace me, but I can pull over right anytime.
oh, I was just gonna do the coaching first so that you could get it in and then do the lesson after.
Yeah, I'll pull over right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It just made it easier. I didn't think about it till after I emailed you.
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna actually do we're gonna do one of the coaching sessions now because Valerie has an event. So hopefully everybody's clear after this week. I think everybody is. So you don't have any other obligations, which is great. So we can really hunker down into the course. So we're going to do the coaching session first. I'm going to assign competencies to you. And then we'll have the lesson and then we'll do the second coaching session. Okay. So let's get your observation forms out, everybody, please. And I'm going to give Deanna, I'm going to give you 3.
Gotcha.
And then Christine, I'm going to give you 5. Georgie's going to have 4.
Okay.
And Kim, you're going to have 6. Lori's going to have
Sure.
7.
Cheryl, sorry, does it matter if these are I got the same one as last week? Does that matter?
It doesn't.
Okay.
Not really, but I'm starting to record it now, so that shouldn't happen again. Okay, so Holly, you have 8. Lori, you have 7. Kim, you have 6. And then Christina had 5, Georgie had 4. And Deanna has 3, okay? Deanna has 3, okay? I'm trying to say your name right this night. Keep correcting myself.
Hey, Coach, calling Dave, and that will be super fun. You're all right.
All right. So we're all going to go off camera, except for Marcy and Valerie. Marcy, you're going to have 30 minutes.
And Valerie's going to be really kind since I have to go first for her. I know.
It's 6:45, so you want to get done around 7:15, okay?
Yep.
All right, you have the floor.
Hi, Val. How are you today?
Good, Marcy. How are you?
Good. How has your week been so far?
Good. A little hectic, but good. Tonight's Thursday.
Oh.
Tomorrow's Friday.
Something significant happened this week or just everyday life?
It's the tail end of kind of a really tough period of time. My daughter's a competitive skater, and we just got through tryouts, and it's just been a lot of stuff. It's just the time of year where everybody, when you're in school like she is, she's a high school student, you're planning for the next year already, and it's just been a lot. And then me trying to keep up with my own business.
So ice skating, roller skating.
Ice skating, yeah.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun and a lot of time.
Yeah.
So did she do well in her trials?
She did well, but it didn't turn out quite the way she wanted it to.
Life lessons, right?
Yes.
So are you ready for today's session?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything that you need to clear before we get started? Like drive really fast to your event? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, can I have about 15 more minutes? No, I don't think so. I think I'm good. I guess I wouldn't mind celebrating a win today. One of the things I just feel relieved about is that I just ran a workshop today, and I always feel great after I do it, and sometimes a little stressed leading up to it. So it was successful, and it's done.
Oh,
So,
that's great.
Yeah, another reason to celebrate going into the weekend. Yeah.
Right. A little relief, a little energy, and a
Yeah.
little time to sigh. That's awesome. Is it a workshop you've facilitated before or led before?
Yeah, I mean, I have, but I customize it to my groups, and so I create more work for myself, and I need to.
I'm sure your clients appreciate it though.
Yeah.
I just wanted to remind you that our sessions are definitely a judgment-free zone. I may take some notes. If you would like copies of those notes, I am happy to share those with you. That's just to kind of help me keep us on target. I know you just celebrated a win, but is there anything you'd like to share from our last session and any successes from that as well?
Nothing I can think of right now. Yeah.
It's hard to remember since we didn't have a last session, but anyways.
Well, then there's that.
But I do love celebrating the progress of your session today. So that's wonderful. I know how that must feel really good. So what would you like to explore today?
Yeah. Well, so now that I'm over the hump about how to handle, disappointments and and plans for my daughter, I'm feeling a little bit stuck. I have a couple of business goals that I have had for a while, and I've made some progress on one and really not any progress on the other. I say no progress. Well, anyway, I would like to talk about how to get unstuck.
Okay. What is it about the goals that make you feel stuck right now?
For one of them, it's taking it to the next step. And one of them, it's really getting something down on paper and to work with, and just really starting to move forward. On both of my goals, or I should say on neither, do I have an external timeline. And so there's nothing externally that is driving me, and I have to really just be completely self-motivated to get them done.
Okay. What would you like to walk away with at the end of the session?
I think if I had at least a next step in mind, and maybe some sort of a vision for, a general plan and or timeline, I would be very, very happy. But at least a next step to get started.
Okay. So just to kind of make sure that I keep us on track, you'd really like to focus. You have two goals for your business, one that you feel you've made some progress on, the other you feel you haven't made as much progress on. And they're really, are these key to your overall business moving forward?
In a little bit of a new direction, yes. And I think one of the goals is going to work itself out. So maybe to simplify, because I am moving forward in one, maybe to simplify, we could just focus on one.
Okay. Which one would you like to focus on?
So I want to write a TEDx talk, I want to write a signature speech that I want to start getting on the road with. And I would also like to do a TEDx talk. And I imagine, and this might be part of what I need to figure out, I imagine, to do a keynote, for example, that's going to be a lot longer than a TEDx. So perhaps I want to get a speech together. I guess one of the questions I have is, do I do my signature speech, which is what I sell on the road, like a keynote, which would be more like a 45-minute talk, and then take snippets of it perhaps and create the TEDx? Or do I start with a TEDx and get that solid and then expand on that?
Okay. So a success today would be a plan regarding that either keynote and or TEDx and how to move that process forward.
Yeah, right.
Okay, great. So tell me what has, I mean, I can tell that you're kind of brainstorming which to start with. Are there any other things that have stopped you from moving forward with this goal?
Yes, to-dos, to create. My creation process is very messy and it's time consuming. It's just the way I just know how it is, and it's just the way I do things. And I hope it's okay to swear on this, but I often have to do a shitty first draft and just kind of, get a bunch of crap out before I really get more crystallized about what I want to say and how to say it. And often I pretty much, get rid of the first draft, and then I'm much more focused, I'm much more clear, and then I have something that I can work with. That's often what happens. Or sometimes I just have a lot of stuff that I'm not going to keep, and then just work on iterations of that.
So what has stopped you? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so sorry. So your question was what stopped me. So in order for me to do that, I really need sacred space, mental space, head space. And I just have been so burdened by my domestic responsibilities, my parental responsibilities, my business responsibilities. And I'm happy to say that I think I'm finally clearing that. I had this suspicion that Q1 was going to be a little messy, but I think going into Q2, I'm going to be clearer. My space is going to be clearer. I'm going to be able to find the time and the space for it. So that, I hope, is kind of resolving itself.
What can you do to make sure that you do have that clear space in Q2 to spend time on this?
I think, first of all, I need to take my own advice to my clients and block some time in my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. People can schedule, my client prospects schedule with me, and people show up on my calendar. I need to just create some blocks of space. So that's one thing.
How will that feel to you to block space on your calendar from allowing your clients to book during that time?
I think that will feel really good.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there times that you find are most effective for you to do this sort of work?
That's a really good question. I think that it's a matter of really having a stretch of space. Like I like not an hour here and not an hour there, maybe a half day here or a half day there. Yeah. In terms of time of day, I mean, before my daughter gets home, she gets home around 3 from school. So, I could do a 9 to 12 or something. And then I could have a few hours of client meetings and have gotten a lot done.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is really those longer blocks versus short amounts of time help you from your creative standpoint and doing it when your daughter's not home. Are there other folks at home or beings that distract you?
My cat, I wouldn't say dinner time, he's a distraction. But he's a nice little companion in the morning. Once he's been fed, he's very cuddly. And so I could just cuddle up with him and do some composing. Yeah.
Okay. As you envision that in your mind, how does that feel to make sure your cat is fed and spend that time cuddling with him?
It's good. It's good. It's good. Yeah, I think that would be fine. I think that would be good. And I like when I'm content creating, I like to put on, somebody once recommended a background music that I really like, and it's a coffee shop with rain ambiance. And I really, really, really like it. And it just gets me into a zone. So I think between that, my kitty, my laptop, just, just really get into a zone and really just speak from the heart. That's what I need to do.
What obstacles will get in your way of achieving this time and this space that you've created for yourself?
I think the one thing that I'm still not sure what I'm doing is, what am I drafting, right? Like, am I trying to write a longer speech, or am I trying to write my TEDx? And I think I, as I'm kind of thinking about it, talking with you out loud, thinking out loud, I think that it's probably more manageable to start at least with the intention of writing more of a 15-20 minute. I don't know, I have to check. I can't remember, but it's something like probably 12 to 20 minutes, something like that. I don't remember, so I'll need to check that, but probably easier to aim for that than double the time.
Have you written something that's more the TEDx length previously?
I have. Yep.
And are there different writing strategies that you have during that you'll need to consider?
Just that I know I'm going to need drafts. I'm going to need, I'm going to need to, sort of draft something, start somewhere, and then just know that it's not going to be I sit down a couple of times and it's done. I just writing something, thinking about it, coming back to it, maybe even running it past some colleagues and tweaking it. Yeah.
About how many half-day sessions will you need to get a draft that you're comfortable with?
Good question. If I can be really productive in a few hours at a time, I'm going to say, if I can get something written, if I can get something that starts to be moldable, and I feel like I'm on the right track, and I think that once I sit down and kind of get what's been in my heart and mind on the paper, that it'll start to take form. And assuming that that's true, I just have to start somewhere, right? Assuming that's true, it might be sitting down one half day, getting something written, coming back to it in a couple of days, and at least having something that I can work with. start to mold and start to take to a next step of my process, which is, you know, run it by people, get feedback, you know, that kind of thing. So maybe 2 half days.
Okay. So it felt like on my end, and we're on camera, so I can't totally tell, but it felt like at one point you almost got your calendar out. So have you already looked at your calendar and looked at, okay, I didn't want to assume that, it just appeared that way. So have you already blocked your first session for yourself?
No, I was actually just making notes in my calendar about about the pieces to this, but I do have my calendar in front of me, and I think that next Friday, so I have a meeting at 9 every Friday, but I think next Friday beginning at 10, so 10 to 1, I can do it. And I think this Monday actually is a pretty light. I don't have a 3-hour stretch. So that's not going to work, but I think I could 2. I think I could do it. I'm going to have to check, but I think I could do it maybe that Tuesday. So maybe Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday 11, 12, 1, 2. I think Tuesday I might be able to do 11 to 2, and Friday do 10 to 1.
So April 4th and April 8th?
April 1st and April 4th.
Think April. Oh, so you mean this coming Tuesday?
Yeah, baby.
All right. Love that.
Yeah.
So what do you feel some of the advantages are to getting this put on your calendar and allotting time for yourself?
Oh, it'll be a huge relief because right now, you know, I have certain offerings in my business, and I just feel like there are a couple of things with my speaking that are gonna be, you know, take my business to the next level. So it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
If you have regular clients during those time frames, how will you communicate the change in times to them?
I don't. I'm working around my clients by scheduling it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anyone that you need to communicate this goal to help you achieve it?
You
No.
and
That's
my
great.
cat, and my cat. I need to inform him of his part in this.
Your daughter?
I mean, you know, just to the extent that if I ever shut my phone off, which I probably should also do, I do let her know the phone's going to be off because, you know, I always want her to be able to reach me or know that she, you know, that it's just a finite period of time. So maybe just let her know that, you know, I'm going to be inaccessible for those 2-3 hour periods. And I'm making a note to myself to turn the phone off.
So how can I support you as you take on this new challenge?
I think just, you know, hold me accountable, check in with me next time we meet. And you know, my goal is to use those 2-3 hour blocks and hope that, you know, I get something on the paper that is you know, might be a draft.
So what does holding you accountable look like for you?
Just I look forward to telling you that I preserved those times and that yeah, I got some things done.
Are there times beyond those two that you're able to pre-schedule so you have that already set on your calendar?
Well, I was actually just looking at my Monday. It's a very I meet with a lot of my clients every other week, and not everybody is on the same cadence, but certain weeks tend to be lighter weeks. Next week is one of them. This week was a lot heavier. And I'm looking at my schedule, and I think I can even squeak out an 11 to 1 on Monday just to start to grease the wheel, I guess.
Oh, Monday, the 31st?
Yeah,
Well,
Yep.
you've got 3 solid dates.
yep. I'd love it if I got this done.
So how does it feel to have those dates on your calendar and that part of your time is set for this?
Feels great.
What else will help those hour or those couple hour blocks be successful for you to help you accomplish what you need to?
I think I really actually have a plan. I block the space. I feed my cat. I get him all primed for some snuggling and inspiration. He's going to be my muse. And I'm going to set up my music, turn my phone off, and I'm going to rock and roll.
Great. Is there anything else that you feel would be helpful for this plan for the next 3 sessions?
No, I think this is a really great. I feel like I feel like I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish, and thank you.
Great. So it sounds like you have your time, your space, you have your plan to make sure you don't have distractions for that set. You've landed a little bit more on focusing on that TED Talk first, since it's a little bit shorter. But I feel like you've left yourself open that if you needed to transition, you could allow your creative flow to take you where it may. And we'll definitely follow up in our next session on your progress as well. Is there anybody in your day-to-day life, even your daughter, that you could just have her check in with you to make sure that you spent your time to keep you on track in between our sessions?
I have a mastermind group, and so I will be seeing them tomorrow morning, and I can ask them to hold me accountable. Yep.
Great. Great. It's just sometimes nice to have that day-to-day accountability as well, and to also keep you moving. Is there anything that would help you keep motivated towards this, or anything that would help support you?
No, I really think I think I just need to sit down and start to do it, and I hope that it's just been percolating and ready to clear the surface. Yeah,
Do you feel like we've been successful today?
I do.
What was your biggest takeaway?
It's just really helpful to narrow it down, the specifics of it. I really appreciate you asking me what I would need to be successful and helping me really think through the pieces of it, because now, everything from just setting the atmosphere, blocking my schedule, to creating the right atmosphere, to, having accountability partners, all of that has been very, very helpful in this process. Thank you.
Great. Any other feedback you have for me today that would have helped you?
This has been great. I think this is great, Marcy. I appreciate it.
Well, great. Well, thanks for meeting with me today. I'll look forward to our next meeting and hearing about how that TED Talk is coming along.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Everybody can come back on. All right, thank you both. Marcy, how do you feel that session went?
I still tend to ask close-ended questions, which drives me crazy. I think that's my employee relations background a little bit. I think she gave me a good topic. She was a good person to coach. She made it kind of easy on me. I I don't think I hit all of the different sections. Because in some ways she openly shared some pieces and I felt like it becomes then too mechanical to try to hit all the sections. All
Okay.
the keys if there, but I'm sure you have better feedback of how I could have worked it in.
I have some feedback, but we're going to go around the room first. Thank you for that. So, Deanna, for 3 on your observation form, what did you notice there? What's your observations?
Okay, on 3.1, focus on outcome. She did that with the coaching agreement, and she did that with the parts 1 and 2. As far as measures of success, I see that she was doing that really well in at, let's see, 3.2 when she was talking about the success of the TEDx talk, and when she was talking about the keynote as which one to focus on. And then on importance of meaning, see if I got that anywhere. That would be 3.3. Okay, go down to 3.4, needs to address. I think she did that really well at the end when she was, she's, for the accountability partner, as well as, is there anything else? She gave the client a lot of space to really, mull around and just roam around in her brain and going, okay, is there anything else that you can think of? And then this is when she was talking about her daughter. And so as far as 3.3, importance and meaning, I love the way she did that, because when she talked about how would it feel when she was getting into visioning there, how would it feel to be able to have this all taken care of? Did I knock any of those out, Coach?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Georgie, I don't know, were you on for the coaching call?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
And let me turn my there. I'm sorry. Oops,
Okay, so you had
there we go.
Yeah, you had 4, right?
I had 4, yeah. So in general, I think that there was the sense of cultivating trust and empathy, because she asked, first of all, she spent quite a bit of time on getting clear on what it meant to be unstuck, what it meant for her, what has stopped her from that. And then I like that there were a lot of how would it feel questions. How would it feel to block the time in the calendar? How does it feel to, once she identified some of the things she needed to do? And then at the end, the asking for feedback about what else would have been supportive for her. I think Marcy did a great job. And that's what I identified, like what is your feedback of what I could have done different to support you?
Yeah.
On what you wanted to do. Mhm.
Good. Thanks.
Yep.
Christine, 5? No. What, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm 5. I think it was just a brilliant session. I think Marcy did a really great job all the way around. One thing I noticed really early on was she was showing a lot of curiosity, asking about the type of skating that her daughter did and the trials, and asking about her workshop, and, really getting curious about what was going on in her life. 5.5, she did do silence and pause quite well. At one point, she interrupted her, but then she reeled it back immediately when she realized she was still talking, and apologized and left a good space for her. She invited her choice when, I forget the question she asked actually, but then Val decided to focus only on her TEDx talk. And then the whole thing went to that after that, She
Yep.
stayed on track with I can't even read my own writing. I was scribbling so much. Coaching the agenda. What did I put here? I like how she built in more accountability at the end of the session. So there was accountability built in, but Marcy took that extra step and just asked that extra couple questions to build that little bit of accountability still in, to make sure that the focus that they had was really dialed in and that agenda was completely met. And then she asked what holding herself accountable looks like to her and how she feels when time and space is created for coaching the person. So that's what I got out of it anyways.
Good. Thank you. 6, Kim, are you feeling better this week?
You know, I'm feeling better, but I don't sound like I'm much better, and I'm still clearing my sinuses, but thank you for asking. So she demonstrated a lot of the competency 6.1 to like 7, like throughout her session. So the custom language, she had like through her example of talking about the distractions and the TEDx writing, exploring the words. So she like used like when what's her name? Who was coached? Oh, Val. Yeah, so when Val was talking about, clearing space and whatnot, she had used that word a few times to help, stay on that, like exploring the words around that. Like she asked, what can you do to clear space? And it was like, how do you feel? How will that feel to have that space blocked out, like that block space?
Mhm.
And talking about how would it feel for like for the advantages of getting it on the calendar. How does that feel to have that down there? I didn't really hear a lot of the exploring the energy shifts. Like, I thought that, like when she was like going, oh, it looked like you were doing something there, but I don't think that was really exploring an energy shift. Like when Val, like when it looked like Val could have been writing something in a calendar or something like that. But yeah, and then exploring perceptions, beliefs, and assumptions. Yeah, so she was talking about about what was stopping her from moving forward. And this was discussion around the space, being clear. And so Val had talked about what stopped her, and so there was exploring around her mental thoughts and responsibilities around that. And no interruptions. And she succinctly summarized a few times, like in the beginning, during the distractions, and the end summary.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lori, 7.
So I felt that she expanded on the topic and the what, by asking questions of like, what has you feeling stuck around this? And then the outcome, I thought she asked a really good question of what do you feel some of the advantages are in you putting this in your calendar? So she kind of kept going deeper with it. As she mentioned, there was some close-ended questions, but I felt she used concise language and that the client talked more.
All right, thanks. Holly, 8.
Yeah, I got down for 8.3 when she asked her, what are some of the advantages of putting this on your calendar now? Was good on getting her to process on the what of what they were talking about. And I liked for 8.7, the accountability, that she asked her, what does accountability look like for her? Instead of just who's going to hold you accountable, but really getting a feel of what works for a client.
Yeah, good. All right. Thank you all for that. What I want to just get you guys to do on future ones is to give me a piece of evidence. So if you're saying that a marker was done, then you don't have to say the whole sentence or a whole summary, but just a little bit of it so that we can start to look at the evidence of it when we're talking about it too. So consider that kind of just like Holly just did. You know, the first thing she said the whole sentence, the second one she gave is part of it. Fine. Just having some evidence that goes with those markers. Okay. So, Marcy, my feedback. I think I'm just going to go in order. So I think this was a good session. And I don't know, for the feedback, do you guys want me to tell you if I feel like this is an ACC or a PCC level? Okay. So I feel like this was an ACC level. I don't think it was a PCC level. And I think right off the bat in the beginning, there's some things that you could potentially do to help set yourself up and the client up for a more in-depth kind of a session to maybe uncover some things, like have more depth. So you asked, you know, what she wanted to talk about. She talked about two different things at first, and she wound up choosing to drop one, you know, eventually. But for you, before she got to that, right, this is your opportunity to say, okay, well, how important are these two things? Like if you had to do a scale of 1 to 10 for this first one, how important is that, or how immediate is it? You know, something to help the client distinguish between those two, if it's something distinguishable, right? Because we want to help them to decide early on whether or not it is going to be both those topics or just one. And like I said, she wound up getting there herself, which is great. But remember that we need to show our skill. Just because the client gets there on their own doesn't mean we pass that competency or that marker. We actually have to show it. So right from the beginning, client brings you two different things. Loads of questions you can ask there, but one of the main ones I think would be, well, first of all, if you had to prioritize those two, which one's the most important one? And then from there, okay, so how involved are each of these? So, you know, if it's something that's really involved, might be past the 30 minutes, it's not going to work right then and there. You'll know, right, when you ask that question. If you still don't have a clear indicator there, then that's where the question about, you know, in our model, the question about the importance, like what is it going to mean for you to have the first one? What is it going to mean for you to have that second one? So that they can start to distinguish which one is really more important to them internally. So that's a way. And then ultimately after that, they still might say, I really think I need to cover both of these. And then you'll do that. But you've helped them to explore, to kind of peel back the layers to get to the bottom of those two things that they've brought up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Okay. And then when you do have, you know, the outcome, and she did choose which one. And then you had said for the outcome, you said, oh, so you want to plan to, you know, to get that done. So I didn't hear, and I might have missed it, but I did not hear Valerie say she wanted a plan. I think she just said she wanted to talk about doing that and that she wanted to get that done. That was something that was important for her to get done. So we want to make sure, you know, that we don't interject anything or lead in any way, right? So instead of saying, so you want a plan, just say, well, what would be the best thing to have in hand to help you to do that by the end of the session? And she might come back and say a plan, which is great, but keep that beginning part where you're getting that coaching agreement really open-ended questions and the exploring piece.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
You may not have heard me, but I said that I did say I wanted a plan. I said I'd be happy if I had an action, a step, the next step, and some sort of a plan.
But did you say that after when you were talking about both things, or after that one thing was established?
Oh,
I think it was before.
Okay, I don't remember. I see. Okay.
So to me, like when I heard that, I didn't hear exactly what it was, but when I heard that, to me See, when I hear things like that, it kind of creates noise for me. So I'm like, oh, that's for both of those things. And we really need to get to the bottom of what are those two things first, right? What's important about those two things? Which one of those are we going to focus on? Or are we going to focus on both? And then you go back to, okay, so now, so you just told me you wanted to focus in on the TED Talk. So what's really going to benefit you the most to walk away with to help you to write that by the end of the session? Something that's going to really drill down to it for her and ask that question. And then don't forget to ask, and what will it feel like if you have that by the end of the session? You asked some really great feeling questions throughout, by the way. You checked in with her, I think, 3 or 4 times throughout the session, so that's great. But do it right in the beginning when you have that agreement. Okay, now we know what you want to work towards. What's it going to feel like to have that in hand? So that they can start envisioning that right from the beginning. Oh, I'm going to be successful. This is what I'm going to walk away with. I'm going to feel this way when I have that by the end of the session. And then to start the session, and this goes by our model, by the way, so I understand if you guys are not used to it, that's fine. But the model then says, ask the client which direction we have to go in. So don't assume that we're going to ask that first question to determine the direction, right? So now you say, okay, so we have this outcome. You want to have this plan to create, your TED Talk. Where would you like to start? To walk away, to work. Where would you like to start to get that plan? Where should we start? Leave it totally up to the client instead of asking a question that points to a direction. And that right there is PCC. If you do all 4 of those things, that is a PCC's good send off or push off to the call. You've now created a great explored coaching agreement. You've explored how the client will feel to have it, and you've let the client lead the session by asking them where to start or what do you need to address. Either way, however you want to do it, but you're getting the client to lead, to say what the direction is. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, can I ask you then the fourth one is, so got those 3, and then the fourth one is again clarifying what it would feel like to have that complete or done?
Yeah, so it's the agreement, topic and outcome.
Yeah.
What would it
What
feel
would it
like
feel
to have
to
that
have that?
outcome?
Yeah.
And then where do we start? What do we need to address?
Yeah, and
Either
then
of
fourth,
those.
because I thought you said you do those 4 things, so then fourth.
That's 4.
Oh,
Can you go through them again just so we all have them?
coaching agreement,
Topic.
what would it feel like?
Coaching agreement is 2 pieces.
Oh,
Topic and measurement, right?
Got
1
it.
and 2, 3.1, 3.2.
Yeah,
And then it's the,
what
and
would
this is
it
right on
feel?
your observation form, by the way. And then it's
Yeah.
the, what would it feel like? What would it mean to you? What would it feel like? Whatever the question is that you ask. And then the 4th piece is, what needs to be addressed? Where do we get started? Where would you like to go? Any way that you want to ask that question to have the client lead.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
So I'm going to leave that as the main focus of the feedback. You already mentioned, the open-ended questions, got to get more focused in on the open-ended questions. And that might mean that I think you used is a lot. So typically people have 2, which is, I know sounds weird, but 2 words that they use that are close-ended that we kind of have a habit of. It sounds like yours is and are. So every time you feel like you're going to say is, or even if you say is out loud, get into the habit of correcting yourself and saying how is. So put the how in front of it, and that's going to force you to reframe your question to an open-ended question, because you can't ask a how question without it being open-ended. So you'll have to reframe the rest of the question. But that's a good way. Anytime any of you feel like you're going to, or even if you do start with a closed-ended question, force a how or a what in front of it, restate it, and then fix your question at that point. And that'll help. It won't take long for you to break that. It just takes concentration for the next couple sessions, really. Then you'll start to see they're not doing it as much. And finally, you won't do it, basically.
So that was is, and what was the other one, Coach? You said there were 2.
From her, I
Is.
heard is and are. And so you want to put how and what in front of those.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then I love the accountability piece. I think you handled that really well. Make sure you don't forget to ask about obstacles. What can get in the way of you, following through on the time that you've blocked out? And then what will you do to overcome any obstacles that come up? But the accountability piece was nicely done. And then the end of the session, well, first, the other thing to think about, and this is just a general thing, is the progress, right? So there's a couple things in there, a couple of markers that go towards progress, self-learning, learning about themselves, learning about the situation. So there's a couple things you can do there that are pretty simple. About halfway through the conversation, you can say, we're working towards such and such. How do you feel we're doing so far? So you're checking in with them, right, on progress. And of course, you can word that however you want, but check in about halfway through. And then, before you get to the accountability and the obstacles, you can say something like, okay, so, you wanted to work towards such and such. And you did say towards the end, by the way, Marcy, you did ask her towards the end. I'm talking about kind of in the conversation itself. But just say something like, what do you feel like you've learned about yourself through this exploration? And maybe it would be like, oh, I feel like if I put things on my calendar, then I can get things done, or I feel good and I can, I don't feel as overwhelmed or whatever. Or if I know I'm going to turn my phone off and I'm going to block out this time on my calendar, yada, 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 right? So you're asking them to look at what they came up with and how it affects them. Because then it might stand out for them for future. I mean, anything that we do in our sessions, right, is for future growth and success for our clients. So when we help them to become aware of things that are working or that are making them feel good about something, they're more likely to start drawing on that themselves as they go forward. So those are just some thoughts. Okay. Questions?
I just said thank you all for your feedback.
Oh, so do you have questions, Marcy, about any of the feedback?
No, I need to practice more.
Well, and you're going to practice, right? You got your in-class coaching, you got your peer coaching. And if you're going to do recordings with clients, that's even better, because then you get more exposure of like how to do that with clients and keep the open-ended questions, especially if you're in a field where you might not be using your coaching skills as much. Okay. Anybody else have questions?
I do. At the top of the session, the coaching agreement number 2, she said, what do you want to walk away with? And then Val said, next steps, vision, and a timeline. Now, my question to you is, as you said, she didn't want to plan. And so tell me how that is supposed to be, because I would have thought that she would have wanted a plan. Next step, vision, timeline is what she said.
Oh, so I was talking about at first when she brought up the 2 topics. That's when they were talking about that. But after Valerie dropped the second topic, then you want to go back and ask for that outcome again.
Gotcha. Okay. I got
Yeah.
you. That's standard. I got you.
Okay. Just another thing on the coaching agreement, again, for everybody, just also consider that, remember that we talked about just asking, what do you want to have, or, what your topic is and what do you want to have by the session doesn't actually always convert to what a measurement is, right? So I want to have a plan by the end of the session. Okay. How are you going to measure that? So you can say, well, how will you know that you'll have a plan? Like, does it need to have 3 steps to it, 5 steps to it? Like, what does that mean exactly? You can even get a little bit more clearer on that, right? On that measurement. So sometimes it might be a third question. for that measurement piece. Don't forget that as well. Okay. So we are going to look at our chapter. Did everybody hear about that? You hit the refresh button inside the lesson if you have a red thing next to the chapter. You can't download it. Everybody heard that? Okay. Okay. So our chapter today. I can find it in a zillion things that I have open on my computer. Oh, you know, I was wondering if Georgie was frozen. You're frozen on there, aren't you, Georgie? Oh, what is happening? Now, who just, okay. Now you're back.
Yeah, I got frozen for a little bit, and so I logged out. I don't know if it was my router or what, but thank you. Here we are.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So chapter 3 is deepening trust and psychological safety in coaching. And we're just really going to talk about how trust and psychological safety are really the core of transformational coaching. It's hard to have transformation when there isn't psychological safety, and of course, when there isn't trust. Because without them, we're not gonna know, first of all, if the client is sharing everything that needs to be shared, or things are coming up for them that need to come up for them. But also, people tend to, when they don't feel safe, they tend to hold back their thoughts and their feelings, right? They don't share that, which means they're not going to explore it. So it limits that exploration. And if you limit exploration and they're withholding thoughts and feelings, then where's the transformation? Where's the change that can happen that is going to be meaningful, right? So we're going to explore how to establish, deepen, and maintain trust, and then, which ultimately leads to clients feeling safe to be vulnerable in their coaching journey. So when we look at the role of trust in coaching, trust kind of goes beyond liking or rapport, right? It's great when we have rapport. It's great if if you like each other. But trust, I can trust somebody and not particularly like them, right? So we're not really looking for, the like, we're looking for the trust more so. Like I said, it's great when we're liked and when we can have that rapport, but really trust is the most important thing. And like I said, you can trust somebody and not necessarily like them. There's people I could give examples of where I don't like them. I don't want to be around them too much. I don't like their company. But if they tell me something, they're going to do something, or they're not going to do something, or whatever, I totally trust what they say, right? And I totally trust that I could say something and they wouldn't betray my trust in spreading it or anything. So we really want to look at trust itself. Rapport is great, and it is functionally important as far as like how you have a conversation with somebody. But we're talking about like how to have the transformation, the change in a conversation, and that is trust only. So when trust is present in your relationship with your clients, they're going to be open to deeper reflections, right? They're going to be open to feedback if there's feedback to be had, which we use at a minimum, but they're more open to challenges, right? If we want to challenge our clients, if they don't trust us and we challenge, it's going to turn them off. And I had that happen to me. I had a coach that I hired, and first session, just no thank you, and stops the relationship, right? So we have to allow for that in our conversations and in developing the relationship with the client. And then also it helps to, again, like to be able to challenge the clients if that trust is there and we're developing that relationship based on that trust. they're going to take greater risks in sharing with us, and they're going to be okay when we take a risk in challenging them, challenging a thought, challenging an action, whatever it is. Which also helps with new perspectives, right? Because when we challenge clients, it opens up for new perspectives. It also helps them to experience personal growth when all these other things are in place in the coaching sessions. So how do we do that? How do we build trust over time? So trust is not typically established, instantly. And I talk about trust a lot in all ways, like all things coaching, whether it's coaching skills, whether it's building your business, whether it's, delivering to your clients what what you say you're going to deliver. Like trust is just all through everything, right? It's also in your personal life. It's also in your work life. If you have a job, it's in all your relationships. Trust is really key. And so it takes time to build that trust. You don't just meet somebody and say, well, I guess there's exceptions, but most of the time you don't just meet somebody and say, oh, I trust this person 100%, right? So we have to develop it, and we have to develop it over time. Now, it doesn't have to take forever. There are things that we can do to speed it up. And especially if the client is open, it happens faster. But if we are consistently behaving in a certain way, that will speed up the trust process. If we are non-judgmental, that will speed up the trust process. If we are open to diversity in general, it's going to create more trust, right? Because people will feel like it's okay if I have a thought about this, or I have a thought about that, or I do this, or I don't do that. I'm not the norm in society, or I'm not this, or I am this. Like, people start to feel okay about that in front of you and not feel like they have to be different, right? We want them to feel like they can be themselves. And so diversity plays a big piece in it as well. But some key elements that we want to think about are reliability. So we follow through on our agreements. We're consistent in our approach. We're consistent in our coaching skills. We're consistent in how we treat people. Transparency. We're open about our coaching process, our expectations, our limitations. And I know as coaches, sometimes we're like, oh, I'm not really good at this, and I just hope my client doesn't find out. But the reality is there's nothing wrong with sharing that weakness when you have these other strengths, right? You find ways to overcome that weakness, and it's okay if your client knows that. In fact, sometimes it works out better if they know it. But also it helps them to feel more safe, because now they know that you're being vulnerable with them, and so they're going to be vulnerable with you as well. Being present, so fully engaging with the client without any distractions. Empathy, of course, is a big thing in our business, but demonstrating genuine understanding and validation of their experiences, their emotions, how they process things, how they view things, right? And then confidentiality, of course, just upholding our ethical standards. And kind of that, again, reinforces that psychological safety as well. And all of these things build trust, and trust builds psychological safety. Okay. So I have an example here in your books. It's as we work together, I want to create a space where you feel completely safe to share openly. If there's ever a moment when sharing, or when something feels uncomfortable or unclear, I encourage you to let me know so we can adjust and ensure this space works best for you. So that is such an empowering, and however you say it, you can choose your own words there, but something like that is very empowering to the client. And they will appreciate that, but it also, not only does it make them appreciate it, but it also helps them to be more successful, because now their mindset is going to be more relaxed and more open. And they're going to, again, be able to communicate with you more openly, because now they have that, or they're starting to get at least that psychological trust as well. So stating something like that on your onboarding call can do wonders for your, starting to build that trust for your relationships with your clients. Okay, questions so far? Okay, so if we look at psychological safety as a foundation for growth, that psychological safety refers to the client's ability to be able to express themselves without any fear or judgment, or rejection or negative consequences, right? It's particularly important when they share sensitive personal challenges, when they explore new perceptions that contradict past beliefs, and when they take accountability for their actions and their behaviors. So when people disclose something about themselves, especially something negative about themselves, we have to really accept that very much openly, and having an accepting demeanor and perspective, because if we come across judgmental at all, or if there is a negative, if we have any kind of a negative thought, or we portray negativity towards it, we're going to kill any kind of psychological safety that there was or that's growing at that point, right? So how we have that safe environment is that we allow clients to speak openly without fear of being criticized or judged or what have you. We also experiment with new ways of thinking or behaving, and we engage in constructive conflict and disagreement, meaning we don't have to agree with the clients. They don't hire us to agree with them, right? But how do we handle not agreeing with them? That's the real crux of it, right? That's important. And then feeling accepted, even when, discussing failures or insecurities. That's what those things allow the clients to do. So some things to think about: signs of psychologically safe coaching space. The client openly shares fears, failures, or personal doubts. The client's willing to challenge their own limiting beliefs. The coach and client engage in constructive, judgment-free dialogue. The coach uses curiosity and non-judgmental questioning to encourage exploration. Now, what would it be if there wasn't a safe coaching space? The client's not going to share. You're going to see that resistance of sharing fears or failures or personal doubts. You're going to see them push back against challenging their limiting beliefs. You're going to see that your discussions around those things are going to be difficult to have. They're going to be, spotty. They're going to be short, curt responses, things like that. And when you're not using that curiosity and that non-judgmental question, that does all the above. You're going to hear those short answers, or maybe no answers. Maybe the client's not comfortable even answering at all. You're not going to you're not going to be able to challenge them on anything. You're not going to be able to help them to look at their perspective and potentially change it if that's what works best for them. You're not going to see them sharing their fears, their failures, or their doubts. So if you notice that these things are happening or aren't happening in the positive, then that's something that you want to have a discussion with your client on. Like, I noticed that, our last session, you didn't really share too many of your, doubts that you were having, but I kind of felt like you were having doubts. Would you like to discuss that? Would you like to explore it? Or I noticed, I noticed that this is kind of how you were communicating this, feeling judgmental or what have you. What can we do to help alleviate that? So asking the questions, but bringing it up and helping the client to really, you're diffusing the situation and setting yourself up for success for going forward, right? So having them being able to tell you what's going on and how you guys can fix it. Okay. So some common trust barriers that come up and how to overcome them. So sometimes, despite your best efforts, there's going to be some issues, right? So trust and psychological safety can be challenged in a coaching relationship. And I'm just going to go over a couple examples here, but there's plenty other examples as well. Really just thinking back maybe on when you first started coaching, maybe some of these things came up or maybe something else came up, and kind of working through what was the barrier, how did it show up in the relationship or the conversation, and how did you overcome it? Or if you didn't overcome it, now that you know better, how could you overcome it if it happens again? So trust barrier, client skepticism. So the client's hesitant to share openly or questions the value of coaching. So kind of what I set up above. So you kind of notice this, right? That they're not really sharing openly, or they start questioning like why you're questioning something, or why you're, focusing in on something, or what have you. Or they say to you, I'm not sure that this is working for me. And I've heard that from clients. I'm not sure, this coaching thing is working for me. Right? There's usually a trust piece. When you hear that, there's something going on there, and it has to do with either safety or trust. So how do you overcome something like that? You can reinforce confidentiality if that's the issue. You can clarify boundaries if that's an issue. You acknowledge the skepticism with curiosity. You're going to ask questions around it. You're going to be accepting of what the client feels, even if you don't think it's accurate. So a client might give you how they feel about something that's going on, and you might be like, oh, that's not how I meant that, or that's not how, that's not how I see it happening, or whatever. It doesn't matter what you think at that point, right? That point, you're trying to help the client come to their own understanding, but you're helping them to explore that perspective to see if there's a change, see if there's something that you can help to build up that that trust again, that psychological safety again. I'm going to give you an example. So I had a client who had a problem with something that I did, and they sent me this long email. And in the whole email, like they're going on and saying, they started with one thing and then they brought up some other things, right? And my whole, I'm like, that is not what happened. Like, that is not what happened. That's all I was feeling as I was reading this, right? Like, that is not true. Like, that is not, but you know what? It didn't matter. It doesn't matter, because ultimately that client was upset, and that was the client's perception of what happened. So could I have responded and defended myself and said, this, you're really not seeing this the right way or whatever? Yeah, I could have done that, but that wouldn't have helped anything. That might have made me feel better for a little bit of nanosecond, but it's not ultimately going to do anything for the client, right? It's not going to do anything for our relationship either. So my response was to say, thank you for the feedback, and I will learn from it. I mean, that's what you have to do, right? You just have to move forward. So we can't make it about us when the client absolutely feels it's about them and us, right? It's just, first of all, it's like trying to change somebody's mind. That's difficult in itself, but if it's a client, that's even harder. So your client's perceptions are what's important, and helping them to see other perspectives is important, but it's not our job to do that it's not our job to do that if it's to make us feel better, right? Or to make our situation better. It's only the thing to do if it helps the client. So fear of judgment. Next one, the client withholds personal thoughts due to fear of being judged. You want to start just using some language that helps them to feel like it's normal, like that the things that they're feeling are normal, the things that they're doing are normal, and it's not really something to be judged about. So you might say something like, again, using that normalizing statements like, many people feel this way. Sometimes people feel this way. It's just something to help solidify that they're not going crazy and that they're not their thinking's wrong, right? And just I understand how that can feel. You know, many people feel that way at one time or another, right? Something to help with that feeling. And and when you do that enough, you should start to see the client loosening up and starting to share those personal thoughts more. The third one there, past betrayal or a breach of trust. So the client has past experience of broken trust, whether it's in or outside of coaching. We're not distinguishing there, but you know, inside of coaching, it's tough. I had this one client, well, not wind up being a client, but prospect who came onto a call and talked about the last 3 coaches that she was with and how each one was wrong and did this and did that. Now, I know there's bad coaches out there, so I didn't want to discount everything that they were saying, but also know that if you went through 3 coaches, there's something wrong here, right? So how do I handle that? Well, I ask some exploratory questions without judgment. Well, why do you feel that way about this person? Like, what do you feel were you able to accomplish on your own in that, you know, in that relationship? Just ask some open-ended questions. Now, I wound up not working with that person because personally, I felt like going through 3 coaches was a lot and that there was probably going to be more issues. And so I actually wound up having a conversation with them and wound up referring them to a consultant. So I felt like they needed a straight consultant, not anybody that's going to be trying to be open-ended about it or whatever, right? So sometimes we have to do that, but really, I validated what they were saying. Like I validated their feelings about what they were saying, like they were describing their feelings and how they felt in those relationships. I didn't get into the nitty gritty of what was right or wrong because again, that's not my place. I wasn't there. I can only hear what the client is saying. So they felt like their trust was breached. They felt like they were betrayed. Okay, I can validate their feelings as far as like they're human and they're having feelings about something without agreeing with it. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to think it's right or wrong. I don't have to judge it in any way. Same thing for a client who's, you know, that's a client who I didn't feel was totally justified. That was my opinion. It didn't come into play. I didn't play out that opinion. But the flip side to that is they come in and they're totally justified, right? Now you hear this story and maybe you have some evidence to it and you're like, well, that happened. So am I going to now jump on, oh, well, that coach, yada, 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 yada? No, I'm not going to do that with a client because it's the same thing. It's just reversed. I'm doing it now with the coach instead of the client. So I'm holding back any judgment either way. But again, I'm still validating that client. I'm still showing them that I understand how it feels to be betrayed, to feel a breach of trust, right? And then, if it makes sense, I'm helping them move past it if that's the goal. But just things like that. So acknowledging those past experiences and allowing the client to then, if you're going to move forward with them, set the pace for building up trust and psychological safety. Because now you're starting out like 5 steps behind. And so you have to let the client build up, right? And get caught up that way. And then the 4th one there is like, if we do something unintentionally, which happens, right? Like we're human, we are not perfect. And a response or a question maybe that we asked unintentionally creates some discomfort, maybe comes off judgmental, things like that. And a good example there I can give you is, most of you know that I have an organization called Recovery Nation that I run. And when I first started in Recovery Nation, which was 14 years ago, whatever it was, it was tough because that Recovery Nation then was only focused in on sex, love, and porn addiction. And so I was coaching people and hearing things and noticing behaviors and things that I was not comfortable with. Right. And so in those beginning stages, I know that I sounded judgmental at times and I would have to apologize and I would just explain. I would just apologize. I'm sorry. I'm new in recovery coaching. And so this is, these are things that having a problem, kind of working through right now. But I really don't mean, and I don't judge you. I don't mean anything by it. It's just a reaction that I'm having. And I had to work on that reaction because I did that like 3 or 4 times. And it was harder to try to explain it than it was for me to work on it. So I worked on it. But you have to acknowledge it. If you do something like that, you have to acknowledge it and you have to apologize. So you take accountability, you clarify what you meant if there was a miscommunication or, your intentions or what have you. And then you invite dialogue to repair. So is it okay if we move past this now? Or what would it take to have you feel comfortable to move past this with me, right? So it's just really owning up, taking responsibility for what we do in the coaching relationship. Okay. Questions about any of that? All right. So some examples I have here. I hear that you're unsure about how coaching might help. That makes sense. What would feel most useful for you in our work together? You're not alone in feeling this way. Many of my clients have shared similar concerns. Let's explore what's coming up for you. And actually, when I was reviewing this chapter, I was like, there shouldn't be let's there, right? Because that's leading, let us. It should be how can we explore what's coming up for you, or what can we explore about what's coming up for you? Something like that, not the let's. I'm going to correct that. And then the next one is like, it sounds like past experiences have made it hard to trust new people. That's completely understandable. How can I support you in feeling safe in our sessions? Next one, I noticed that my last question might have felt a bit confrontational or confronting or whatever. That wasn't my intention. Can we explore how it landed for you? All right, again, taking that ownership. And then last one there, it sounds like this topic brings up a lot for you. I want you to know that whatever you share here, there's no judgment in this space. Okay. All right, so the next piece is an activity. We're going to do this together. I'm going to change it a little bit from what it says. I'm just going to make it a kind of an around the room activity versus breaking out into small groups. So basically, we're going to take each situation, and I'm going to go around and ask each of you to come up with a response or a strategy to help with this situation, right? So instead of the role playing, we're just going to say, I'm just going to ask you, what could we do here to help build trust? Or how could it be improved? How can we improve the situation? And then how ultimately will that help with psychological trust and safety? Okay, so building trust takes practice and self-awareness. So hopefully these will help you explore different ways to create psychological safety in real world situations. So the first one there, the hesitant client, your client hesitates to share a personal struggle and says, I don't want to sound weak. So how can we validate their feelings, but also reframe that vulnerability maybe as a strength or something else? And I just have examples here. Don't use my examples. What is something that you could do, your example of something that you can help when a client says this? How can we help them move past that and create some safety? But validate that it's okay, first of all, to have feelings like that, right? Like, but is it real? Is it really the situation? Is it something that can be overcome? Whatever it is, like, you tell me, how could you help the client in that situation?
The first thing that comes to mind, Cheryl, is acknowledging what they actually just said and saying, and I don't know, can you repeat again the verbiage from the client? The client is hesitant, but they say what specifically?
So the client hesitates to share a personal struggle and they say, I don't want to sound weak.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I think it would be acknowledging this, I don't want to sound weak, and acknowledging the vulnerability to even say that. And
yeah,
I don't want to go as far as saying like, thank you for trusting me enough to dare to say that, but maybe, some compliments on an appreciation, not compliments, but appreciation of daring to share that piece.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly acceptable what you said. And then what do you do to help them challenge that or redefine it or move past it?
From my perspective, I think that there's a step in between, which is asking for permission. And asking, because they're saying I'm tentative, and saying, asking something like, would it feel, thank you for sharing that and for saying that there's a lot of power in sharing your vulnerability. Would it feel appropriate or helpful if we explore that a little bit? So first getting the agreement, are we okay to go there?
Okay.
And
All
then,
right. So
yeah,
then what?
if they say yes, well, I think we all have different ways. I would go more from a little bit of, where are they getting that information? Just checking the data, what information they have to make that statement. And this is maybe a little more cognitive behavioral stuff, but I would want to find what part of that data is true, what is not, what are the stories made up, what are the stories informing, doing, serving for, etc.
Yeah. So what kind of specific question could you ask based around, knowing that they said, I don't want to sound weak. So their perception is that that statement.
But
could
once
sound
we
weak.
have permission to go down there, I'd ask, I think I would want to start from, ground up, very basic, tell me more about what weak feels like to you.
Yeah. Or what does it mean to you? Yeah. Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go across, Lori.
The same one, or do you want me to do the uncertain one?
No, do the same one.
Oh,
Get a couple.
okay. I think my approach would ask them, like, what has you feel weak about that? Like, what about your feelings? I mean, I guess, how would I describe it? I'm trying not to repeat anything that was said.
That's okay if you repeat a little.
So I think that's what I would ask. Like, why would you think that you would be, that it would be weak for you to share that? And kind of go down that road of understanding what about it, what's behind it that has them think that by them speaking out or whatever that they want to say is going to make them look weak.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know how to say that right now, but
so maybe it's like what has you feeling like that is weak, or what has happened that made you think that's being weak, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because they're using that word for a reason, right? It's not really like a common feeling that we hear all the time. I don't ever really have people say, oh, I don't want to seem weak. So, I mean, I guess for me, but I would ask around that, like, what is it specifically about it?
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. All right, so let's go to the second one. I think we'll do two people each, because then we do have to we're going to take a 5-minute break after this, and then we're going to go to our last coaching session as well. So the second one there is the uncertain sharer. So a client shares a mistake they made at work, then immediately says, I probably shouldn't have told you that. So consider, how can you reinforce confidentiality and validate their courage in sharing? Holly?
Everything we talk about is private and confidential. No, I would find a kind way. Sorry. This is a safe, I just want to remind you, this is a safe zone, and whatever we talk about stays here among us. And what would I ask? Oh, that's already there.
I think for the final chapter here, I'm taking out these examples and putting them into the instructor book, and this way people can say these things.
I know, because I'm like, well, I was gonna, what's causing you to feel that how could I help you? Well, then it's about me, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's just more of what has you feeling like you should have told me. I mean, that's kind of the same thing, but
Yeah.
How about, does somebody else have a different way of approaching that versus the example?
I do.
Awesome.
I think I'd probably want to acknowledge their courage in sharing that with me. And just reminding them that this is the space to be able to do that without judgment. And then just explore with them, or have them explore, what feelings come up for them when they are in that space to share something like they just did.
Okay. Yeah. So how would you frame that to them?
How did you just feel sharing that with me?
Okay. Yeah. So this is a different approach. I like it. You're having them examine, why they even said it to you to begin with.
Well, yeah, I'm that, and I would probably want to have them kind of eventually figure out, almost like, I wouldn't come out and say it, but what's the worst that can happen when we share it? Really. Eventually I'd want them to come to that, or something like that,
Yeah.
some sort of realization, regardless of what that realization looks like, I guess.
Yeah.
To get them thinking.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Can I do a little twist on that? Because I was thinking down the same path as Christine. I would probably, similar to the other one, say it takes courage to share our mistakes. However, right, everybody makes mistakes. How would it feel if you were able to share your mistakes more freely with others?
Good one. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So you both kind of approach that from a different angle. I like it. Thank you. How about the third one there? The defense response: when you offer a new perspective, your client gets defensive and pushes back. So consider, how can you acknowledge their emotions while still encouraging self-reflection? This one could be a little bit difficult. And Kim, how about you?
Sorry, Cheryl, can you repeat that just one more time, please?
Yeah. So when you offer a new perspective, your client gets defensive and pushes back. So how can you acknowledge their emotions while still encouraging self-reflection?
How does it feel to hear that perspective?
Okay.
Oh, I can't. Oh, sorry, it faded out there.
Or maybe something like just as simple as, how did it feel when you heard that from me? So first acknowledging the feelings.
Yeah.
Because we see that they got defensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what about I said, or like, I feel there's a bit of resistance there. What is that resistance about?
Yeah, or what's coming up for you?
What's coming up for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
some of these strategies I think are more appropriate to incorporate, or for me at least, to incorporate or to consider for long term. So if I'm working with a client for a while, you know, and I notice a resistance or a recurring pattern of resistance on a particular, I'm not trying to accomplish necessarily a particular goal in that session. For, you know, I might be also willing to just take note of these resistances and just switch gears for a little bit and kind of take note for myself of where those might be. Granted, that doesn't do the self-reflection piece or the self-awareness, but I might offer something like, you know, whatever the reaction was. So, you know, I heard you say this, or you know, you heard me say this, and I saw you do, or I heard your tone, or it sounds like, and offer that back as a reflection. Because resistance is also subjective, right? We might be interpreting its resistance. There might be an appropriateness to not want to go there. There might be a safety issue, whatever it is. So
Yeah, so just saying something, well, like the first part there, like I hear that this perspective might not be sitting well with you. And change it to that.
yeah.
And then say, would you like to explore? So you put it back, so you still note it though, right? Because you want to bring awareness around it. But then ask the question, would you like to explore what feels off about that to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. So again, no, we don't do the let's. So that's my replacement there is, would you like to explore? Okay. All right, good. And then the fourth one there, the reserved client. So a new client keeps the responses brief and doesn't engage in deeper conversation. Consider how can you adjust your approach to make them feel more comfortable about opening up. Deanna.
Okay, so a new client keeps their responses brief and doesn't engage in deeper conversation. How can you adjust your approach to make them feel more open, feel like more opening up? Well, okay, so to me that would be what would it be something like is there just making note of, we're just going surface level here, and would you be open to considering, you know, the deeper meaning behind these questions so that you could, so would you say so that you could, would you like to explore the deeper meanings of these questions for more value in our coaching session?
I think you'd have to explore if it's more value to them or if we think it's more value, right? Because
Okay,
again,
but wasn't that what I said is, you know, I noticed that we're staying surface level here. And would you like to consider going deeper into these questions so that you could get more value? Is
so I
that
would
leading?
skip the value part. So you could get more value assumes that we think that going deeper is going to give them more value, right? So, and I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but
No,
we don't
go
want to,
ahead. I love
we don't
it.
want to assign, you know, we don't want to assign anything there. So I think it's better just to
Okay.
do the first part. I think that's actually a good response, just saying, you know, to get deeper. And maybe you say to see what might be valuable to you.
Okay. Okay, I
So
love
it's
that.
a
I like, and
question. Yeah.
yeah,
So you're
we were
questioning.
getting to the same place. Okay.
Yeah. Questioning it instead of making it a statement.
Okay, so how would going deeper into these questions help you reach your objective to the coaching agreement?
Maybe it's how might,
How might,
or
okay,
would you
okay.
consider that potentially going deeper would benefit you? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, love it.
Something like that.
Okay, cool.
Who else for that one? Anybody?
So you're
Um,
acknowledging and then you're bringing awareness to it and you're inviting.
Yep.
How might, you're not, okay.
Right. You're not assuming or assigning anything. You're exploring, having the client explore it. Okay,
If it's
5,
a
past
long-term client, couldn't you share, if it's a longer term client, I feel like you could say your responses today seem a little or seem shorter than they have in previous sessions. Is there something that you would like to explore in regards to this?
I mean, you could say that. I think the example that I give is really it could be for longer or short term, but it's probably going to work really good for long term. Just saying, I noticed that you're keeping things pretty surface level, and that's okay. But what would help you feel more comfortable? What would help you to feel more comfortable sharing with me? Kind of the same thing, just worded differently. But yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to do that. I'm trying to get like different perspectives versus what I have already. But I think it's okay whether it's short or long term. Like I think it's okay to do that, because if you don't help the client see that they're staying on the surface right from the beginning, you're going to spend a whole lot of time getting them, comfortable or whatever, working towards that. It's okay to spend a little bit of time helping them get comfortable, but really it's right from the beginning. They should know that this is what we're going to do. We should go deeper here, or we typically go deeper here. What's the obstacle for you, or what's going to help you to move forward quicker, or whatever the case is. But I wouldn't tiptoe around this type of a situation. I would just make sure that we're not assigning anything to it, that we're helping the client explore to it. I think is what I'm trying to say.
Could you speak just a second on assigning to? What you've used that to assigning.
Yeah.
And that might sound stupid, and it might be, but
no, it's just like we're defining or categorizing, and we don't want to do that. So like when you said valuable, like what would be valuable for the client, like we don't want to tell the client that going deeper would be valuable. We're assigning that tag that because it might not be valuable to them to go deeper in that moment. It might be enlightening, it might be awareness generating, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily valuable to them. So when you say how might, then it's a question. We're not assigning it. We're questioning whether or not it could be valuable to them.
so it's just the might, the verb there, right? Might,
yeah, it's like asking a question versus saying, giving something a title or giving something a meaning. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
We want to help the
Thank you,
client to
Coach.
define it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Your client shares that a previous coach made them feel judged and hesitant to trust another coaching relationship. So how can you acknowledge their past experience while setting up a foundation for trust in your session? Anybody?
So I think that coming into like a comfort agreement, like before the session, to determine, what they need in order to feel safe, like, the language being used, what triggers they might have, like what not to say maybe, or making sure that they know that confidentiality, and ask if there's anything that they would like to add to make it more comfortable for them.
Yeah, I like how you said a comfort agreement. Because if you know, which you should know, I mean, they most likely have disclosed this, that they've had a bad relationship or a bad experience with a coach, then that's something that you're discussing, first of all, before they ever hire you, like before you ever have them sign a contract or pay you, you want to discuss that, right? Because you don't want to get into a relationship or go through all that and then find out that they're just not gonna be able to do it, right? So you have to explore that first. But then in your, once you decide to move ahead, or in that exploratory phase before you even make that decision, is to have a discussion around it. How can we make this comfortable for you? And coming up with something like a comfort agreement is a way to do that. I think that would be a really good thing to do, is talk through, like, are there specific things that you would want me to refrain from asking about in the beginning, or, whatever, like just asking those questions around what's going to make them feel the most comfortable. And then it's like creating an actual contract around, okay, so this is what we're going to do, at least for the next, month or two, and then we can come back and assess where we are with the trust and and how you're feeling in the relationship, something like that. I think that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and another one is just around, what would you need from me, or what would you like to do before we start our session to have you feel more comfortable and at peace? Like I've had clients where they like to do a visualization or like a bit of a meditation before we start, to ground them.
Yep. Yeah, good. Yeah, and that goes for any situation, not just this one. You can always ask clients what would be helpful for them in a session. People that do like Reiki or, whatever, meditations or whatever, typically will ask clients if there's something that they could do at the beginning of sessions or at the end of the sessions that would make them better for the client. Okay. So we're not going to take a break because we really need to get to the second coaching session. Unless you really, really have to.
I have to go to the bathroom and I'm being coached. So I'll be right back.
And I can't get my camera to come, and my camera somehow went off and I've messed with it. I'd have to log all the way out and back in. So I'm just going to hang out.
Oh, that's fine. Well, what are you saying here?
It's not urgent for now. It was just a notice on the calendar.
What date says it? I'm trying to find it on the calendar.
June 12th. It's the peer coaching.
Oh, you mean that you have 2 weeks in a row? Oh, it's the same week.
The same week.
Okay. Gee, checkers. I'm pretty sure I said this to 2 people to check it. I will fix that. I'll switch around one of them. Lori's like,
at least I made you laugh. Lori doesn't even know what it is because I think I sent it just to you. On June 12th, Deanna and I are together.
She sees it now.
Yeah. Huh?
Well,
I saw you in the bathroom.
I was one of the checkers, so.
As soon as you said it, I was going to the
That's
bathroom. I was like,
so Cheryl, that week too, on June 12th, you have Christina and Patty. Like, do you mean Christine and Kim?
I do.
Okay.
I'm gonna redo
Not
it
anymore. Now it's Christina and Marcy. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
now it's gonna be Christina Marcy. So I will switch that around and upload it. I'll send it to my checkers again. And then I'll upload it.
I at least tallied all of them.
You did. I liked that little list that you gave me with 2 and 2 and 3 and 2 and all that.
I was making sure it was even, guys. That was my focus.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna have an abbreviated session for Deanna coaching Holly. So if you're up to a 20-minute session, Deanna, that would be great.
Can do.
And I'm not going to assign competencies for this one. I'll just have you guys, focus in on one area that you see that you want to comment on for markers. Okay. And you guys can come on, Deanna and Holly, everybody else go off. It's 8:30. You want to start at stop at 8:50. Okay? You
Okay.
have the floor. You have
Hello, Holly. Hello,
Hey.
hello.
How are you?
Yep. Let's see. Hold on just a minute, Coach. So we are just have your picture here and we don't have the. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me start all over
Okay.
again. Hello, Holly. How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So sounds pretty good. How long has it been first? How long has it been since you and I have talked? Like when did we meet? Back.
Oh, I took class in 2020 when the
Okay.
country shut down. Yeah,
Okay. So that was
spring of 2020, 5 years ago. Yeah,
So I would
yeah.
love to compliment you on your success. I see you're a
Thanks.
successful coach and teaching at WCI now, and I'm kind of really proud of that, proud of you and where you've come and
Thanks.
come so far. And so we're going to go ahead and get started here in our coaching session. And first of all, I want you to know that I'll abide by the ICF core competencies, that anything that we talk about in our session tonight will be strictly confidential. So I want you to feel like that you have a really safe space here to go as deep or as wide or long as you would like. Okay.
Okay.
So I heard you say you were doing pretty good. What's is there anything you want to talk about that hesitancy of pretty and good in between space?
Yeah. I'm in a weird place in life. I have a home, I have a life. I am really settled with roots in Charleston, South Carolina. But God saw fit to bring me a husband. And so I got married in September, and he wasn't able to get a job down in Charleston yet. And he has a son in college, he's about to graduate, and another son that lives with us now. And
Okay.
so it made sense to stay, or I moved up to Pennsylvania for the year.
Okay.
And I see the benefit. And I know like what I'm sowing like is going to be reaped in beautiful ways as they grow older and I get to know them on a deeper level, like having spent this time with the boys. But I don't have a life here, and I don't have the energy or the time to build one. So I was just in Charleston last week. You all saw me drive down. And I mean, I just got there and it was like loads off my chest, like taking that heavy backpack off. And then when I started driving back the other day, I mean, I got like halfway back and I just started getting really anxious. And it's like, I don't like my attitude, like the feeling in my heart about it. My head is thinking right, but my heart isn't feeling it. And I'm not sure what to do to help it be okay with where we're at right now. Because in my head I am. And I'm grateful for the time with the boys. But it costs me a lot, I just emotionally.
Okay. So first of all, congratulations. And you have this family, you have this whole new family. And I get that. I get that. That is the total life change for you, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a heavy load. It's a heavy load going from this space to where you are now and being allowing people into that space, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like that that your heart is willing, but it's kind of like your body, needs to be moving in a direction to where your heart is. So is that what you would like to talk about in our conversation tonight? Is so specifically, what would be the main thing that you would want to talk about in this dynamic?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to find a light switch on my heart that I could, when it's not matching my head and I want it to match my head, that I could just like flip it on.
Okay. And if you see me, I'm writing to make sure I
Yeah.
keep us straight on target there. Okay, so now what would that look like at the end of the session? What would
Mhm.
you need to have in place for to be able to see that light switch and then even go and do the action part of even flipping it on, you know?
Um, yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I don't want a mantra.
Okay.
I've tried that since I've been up here, like just that. So I know it's not that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know how to get them to match.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. So after the session here, and you have gotten, this clarity that you're looking for,
Mhm.
and so you have a situation here that you responded automatically to,
Mhm.
and how would you be able to, what would you do to go, okay, that was before, and this is now?
You mean when I got married and moved up here?
No, when the thought comes to your head, like,
Oh,
afterwards, what would be that thought process that you would go, okay, well, that's Holly before, and now I've got this in place, so this is me now.
yeah.
I'm sorry if that was convoluted.
No, that makes sense. I feel like as soon as I realize it's happening, I feel disappointed. And then I think I stay on that path of just disappointment in myself. And then I try to self coach and remind myself that this is a season and it's a beautiful season. Um, and it's only costing me a little bit. But I also know, like, psychologists say there's like there's these like big 10 life events, and a regular functioning human should not experience more than 2 of them in a calendar year. And I've done like 4, if not 5. So it's back to like when I was a missionary. So, and maybe it's some of that like coming back on. So, yeah, so I just go down and kind of stay in the negative path.
So you want, if I'm hearing you correctly, then you want to be able to, when these thoughts patterns that you're having now, when those come up, then you want to be able to refocus on the positive
Mhm.
and move out of the disappointment of that thought that you go, oh, well, I shouldn't be thinking that to begin with, right?
Mhm.
So you would want to be able to stop that and get past the disappointment and in essence forgive yourself for being what
Mhm.
human, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then and for me, I hear that you're looking for heart brain coherence, okay,
Yeah.
where your heart and your brain are one and the same. And
Mhm.
my first question to you would be, well, let me ask you, so if when you get this heart brain coherence,
Mhm.
what difference would that make for you?
I would feel as though I am taking the most advantage of the time up here.
Okay.
I feel like if my mind is able to sync with the brain and be in that positive mindset, then I will feel like I'm taking advantage of being up here. And then I'm also my best self. Although as soon as the boys come around or we do anything, like, it all gets turned on. That's not the problem. It's just like in my quiet, hours alone of wanting those things. But yeah, I think it would feel really good.
Okay. And so it would feel really good. And so, well, let's talk about first question I got for you is what is it costing you to make these changes, to move forward? What's it costing
Mhm.
you?
Well, I was 48 when I got married. And I've always lived alone.
Okay.
So there's just naturally that I'm all of a sudden living with John and our son Ivory in a much smaller place than I used to live in alone. But that's trivial. That's not the thing. I, having been a missionary and traveling for so long and not having roots, it's been so key for me to have those deep, deep roots. And they've really grown in South Carolina in 15 years. And it's hard to not have that. Like when I was just back, I went to my grocery store and I like went to my favorite grocery store checkout person. And I think in Charleston, I've created a life that feels more European because of the just the way Charleston is, and that's why I'm like connected with it. And and here it's big, and there's not like that interaction or connection. There's not the friendliness, of things. So I think that unfriendliness like gets my spirit as well, because that happened in Austria a lot. It's been costing me, I mean, seasonal depression. Like my depression and anxiety has been really out the rooftop because it's too cold. I can't walk. There's no sun. I totally forgot what that's really like to not have sun or
That is
true blue
warm.
skies. Yeah, and so thankfully it is getting warmer. So I think that's going to fix itself. And it was just horrible getting through, but now I think it's going to start fixing itself a little bit better. But just also selfish. I don't want to be selfish.
Okay. Okay. So what, let me feed this back to you for a second here. So when I ask what it's costing you, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Okay, so this change in life and being married now, it sounds like it's costing you your autonomy, your freedom of range of movement. You're having to adjust to, being accountable to someone for your daily actions there. You are not used to this, right? And then you got your new environment. Okay. As we know, you mentioned earlier that changing is moving your dwelling is one of the top most stressful things you can do in a year.
Yes,
And you said, I think I heard you say you had 4 of
3
those.
or 4.
And now you're in a new environment. Not only have you moved your dwelling, but you are in a place that is different environmentally speaking. So you have these new environmental elements, and you mentioned unfriendly. And it sounds like, okay, so you're moving in unfriendly territory, and you hear that your brain is wanting to keep you safe. Your brain is wanting to keep you safe. So now you've got these things to deal with. And not only did that, again, with your environmental changes, you're not seeing sun. You're used to seeing sun. Holly loves sun. This is what gives Holly. Okay, and so now you've got all of these things going on, and you're trying to make it work. Your good heart, wants to, and so you're feeling selfish for not ticking off all these boxes. Let me ask you this. How could you give yourself grace knowing after reframing back that this is a lot on your plate? You're doing great. What would you need to do to give yourself a little bit of grace?
What would that grace look like? One thing I did 2 weeks ago was did something that was really demanding of me. And it happened 3 times in one day. And after the
Okay.
3rd time, I was driving home and I called my mom and I apologized because I'm like seeing, now you know what it was like to. But that made me feel good, like to see.
Can I stop you and move you back? I didn't hear the top of that, that when I asked what would you need to to give yourself grace. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah.
that top part.
Oh, I was just saying, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And trying to think about what that would look like.
But you said that you did something, and I'm sorry, and I apologize. That's what
Oh,
I
I
meant.
called
So,
my mom and apologized
okay.
because
Oh,
um I am seeing I mean, I've known the demands of a mother, but I felt them real strong one day. So I called my mom and apologized. And I
okay.
liked that camaraderie of knowing that I'm not in a new space. It's new for me. It's not new for anybody else. And to be able to like give my mom back that gift of apologizing and seeing, you know, those things you just don't see as a kid, that felt good.
Mhm. And how does you mentioned feeling selfish?
Mhm.
Okay, so may I ask what you are doing for your self-care and how that selfishness and self-care, is there a disconnect there? And
No, I don't
that's
think so. Because I have more time. So, I mean, I've been good at painting my nails, been getting B12 shots through the winter to help and
okay.
vitamins. Um, I just feel selfish that I'm thinking about myself when I go down that path, that I'm thinking about myself and I'm not thinking about my new family.
Okay. Okay. So what is it that you would need to change so that you're not feeling selfish?
I think I think grace is probably giving myself some grieving time of grieving or naming it out loud when I feel it, the grief of what has changed and why that's hard right now.
Okay.
Because it's all,
Would
you know, happy, happy, joy, joy. All these amazing things are happening that I've prayed for so long. But that doesn't mean that it's hard to leave other things behind and that you can just snap your fingers and be okay with it.
Okay, so would you like to explore some of those things that you are grieving? Would you like to explore some of those things that you're grieving out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be?
Um, yeah, the, it's not the accountability, it's the, I don't know the word, like being watched, but that makes him feel creepy and he's not creepy.
Okay.
It's just the lack of just personal time, which is something I like have come to enjoy as the older I've gotten. So it's harder to kind of find a space and just be in it.
Okay.
Um, I can't run around my house naked, nor can I run around in it in just my underwear. 48.
Everyone loves to do that, right? I mean,
I
you do
know,
it for
like,
so long.
um, I just
Okay.
miss like the way that I ate. And so, like, the way that I would eat like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how I spaced my meals and like spacing them with John is really hard. And that's been like one of the, and I say toughest, but it has been this ongoing discussion of like, I don't eat like that or at that time. Um, so that's a struggle. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm giving up that face-to-face contact with my Charleston friends and my post office people and my food line checkout guy and those little things that make it
Okay.
feel homey.
I get you. I get you 100%. That so is there okay, so let's go back to we're coming to the end of our session here. And let's go back and say the light switch, okay? You
Hmm.
mentioned the light switch. So as you are looking for the heart-brain coherence here to be able to
Hmm.
match your you've talked about grieving and you've talked about letting go and
Hmm.
you've talked about um I did hear a little conflict there of back when you were being, you were talking about, you said that you did have time for self-care. And then now I hear that you said that there was a lack of personal time. And so, let's jump straight to the light switch. And I'm not sure if I helped you get there, but if you were to contrast between your, call it old life, and now your new life, what are some things that you would be able to gravitate toward that would help you stay on the positive side rather than going back to the grieving?
Well, I think it is though naming it as grief and giving myself permission to grieve
Okay.
instead of just shoving it down or thinking of it as depression, or like a negative connotation. I mean, because grief is negative, but not necessarily, because it's also the absence of things you love or loved. So I think naming it grief is showing myself grace and opening that door of just, sit with that grief for a minute or two and then move to the next thing. Right. And so, like, yeah, I think that switch is like, okay, just sit with that grief instead of stop it, be positive. Remember what you're doing. This is so amazing. Like, just, no, this is hard. Yeah.
Okay, and also I want to reflect back to how would that make you feel unselfish?
Because I'm not, I don't know how to explain it. I think when I go down the negative path, it's like, woe is me. And that feels selfish. And grief isn't woe is me. Grief is an acknowledgement of a loss or a change.
Okay, so now let's go back. As we're closing the session here, uh, what I hear you saying is when you have those feelings, that you're going to sit with those feelings, you're going to own those, you're going to deserve those feelings, and so then you're going to go, okay, instead of staying in the grief, you're going to move toward the positive. Okay, so now what difference would that make in how you feel?
Well, I think it'll um, help me flip the switch like quickly. So to not get in a rut and kind of feel a certain way for an hour or half a day or something. It's more blocks of time. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the awareness is and setting,
Yeah.
and then that is your light switch. Okay, so real quickly, what could get in their way of acknowledging that and moving to flip it?
I don't really think there is. I think it's just me taking the time, like just to maybe have a grief journal or something where I'm writing those things down and then giving them space.
Okay. Is there anyone that you would share this with that would walk with you on this journey to help you to continue to grieve and move forward?
Yeah, I'll talk to my mom about it this weekend.
Okay. When will you do that? This
Well, I'm
weekend?
gonna see her tomorrow. So yeah, tomorrow or Saturday. I'll be
Okay,
with
and
her
what
all
will you
weekend.
ask her to do? What will you ask her to do?
Just to check in and ask how I'm doing with grieving all the changes and celebrating the good stuff.
How do you feel now?
Mm.
Do you feel like you got something you can work with?
Yes, I do. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I love the smile on your face. I know you got this. And I'm excited for you to be able to put all of these toxic weighing down feelings of selfishness and put those aside and know that you are doing great, Holly. You are
Okay.
doing fantastic.
I'm gonna jump in because we only got 5 minutes now.
I'm out of here.
All
Go
right.
to 10.
All right, thank you both. So that was a really good session. And, lots of great stuff in there. Open-ended questions. You stayed on task with the conversation. I'm going to go, but I'm going to say two things. I really don't have a whole lot of time to say this, but I want to go back to the coaching agreement. And by the way, the first couple weeks is usually always about the coaching agreement in the coaching sessions until we get them really, first I'm going to go back actually before that. So we actually don't say that the conversations are private and confidential anymore because they're not, right? Yep. So we talk about a safe space. And if you download our coaching model, you'll see that that's not in there anymore. We don't, and that's something from the ICF because there's reasons why we would have to disclose. And so when we say that, we kind of set ourselves up for some conflict. So we just don't say that anymore.
Gotcha.
And then, I liked how you helped her drill down a little bit, get, that light switch. You asked some really great questions. I feel like the measurement for the outcome could have been a little bit clearer. There were some questions you asked later, which I thought would have been great up at the top. Like, you said that was before, this is now, what would that process be? That would have been a good question to the outcome. So that light switch. So what is that process that you need to have in hand that's going to be able to flip that switch? And then that becomes the measurement, right? The outcome.
Okay. Okay, love
So
it.
just, just kind of moving that up. But again, you explored the topic piece well. I liked how the questions that you were asking. You asked what would it mean for her in different places a couple times. That was great. You asked what is it costing you? That's a really good coaching question. Couple things to keep in mind. You brought in the term heart-brain coherence. Make sure that we don't introduce terms, right, or new language. She might not know your client might not know what that is, right? So just reflect back what she said and don't name it. Don't give it a term.
Okay. Okay.
And then there was go ahead.
But on that other one, when we bring in new concepts, we just talked about in this, when you offer a new perspective. And that was
so a new
number.
perspective, if you wanted to say something like, what you just described sounds to me like this philosophy or this or I don't even know what that is, this term of heart-brain coherence. Are you familiar with it? So you'd have to explore that more. You can't just say, oh, that's heart-brain coherence, yada, yada, yada.
But
You know
she
what I
was
mean?
shaking her head, yes. She was shaking her head, yes.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I'm not fussed. I'm just.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it just wasn't like she could be shaking her head because she might get an idea what that means. But what I'm saying is if you are going to introduce new terms, then you have to actually introduce it, ask a question, right? But in this case, you didn't really even have to do that. You could have just reflected back what she said. The other thing is, I'd like to question, you said, what would you need to feel safe? That was a great question as well. There was a part where is it? Oh, she said, I don't want to be selfish. Now, I understand you didn't have a whole lot of time on this call, but don't forget to explore those things, right? So what makes you feel like that is being selfish or that would be selfish? Right? Because I don't feel like what she was saying was selfish. I don't think you did either.
Well,
so
I didn't
just
either.
Yeah. So just not that our opinion matters except for in the way that it helps us explore with them. So just saying something like, what makes you think that that's selfish? And see where she comes from, where she goes with that. Anyway, just some things to think about. And thank you, everybody. Any questions about anything before we go? Kim, did you try the refresh thing?
No, not yet, Cheryl.
Okay. I think because it worked for Marcy that it should work for you.
Okay. I'll try it tonight.
Okay. And then if not, I'll just message me and I'll send it through Messenger.
Okay, thank you.
Just know it's the refresh in the next to it. There's a refresh button next to the document, not Microsoft refresh. That won't help you.
Yeah. Okay.
It might help you. I don't know. It didn't help me.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
thanks,
Marcy.
guys. Next week we have Valerie coaching, Marcy, Lori coaching, Deanna, and your chapter 4 is uploaded already. And I'll see you guys next week. If you have questions in the meantime, just shoot me a message or an email. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. And
Hey,
Bye.
Kim,
I just waved at
Kim
you all,
hit,
but you
hit me
can't
up
see me.
with our session, Kim. Okay,
okay, bye-bye.
bye y'all. Good class.